Hey, good morning everyone. Welcome back to another Weather with Ryan forecasting video. We have a very dangerous situation on our hands with Hurricane Idalia impacting the western coast of Florida. I'll give you more information on that and what you need to know in just a few minutes. But before we get into that, let's go over the local conditions for today. Taking a look at the temperatures for today, around 7 in the morning, it's going to be very nice. 64 over in Callaway County, 62 and 62 over in McCracken and Massac County. And as we progress through the latter half of today, we have a highs only around 80 degrees over around 2 p.m. over near Callaway County, 79 over in Massac and McCracken. And as we progress through the latter half of today, it's going to get down to the 75s and 76s in our area. Relative humidity is not that high. We're only around the 50% in the humidity range. It's going to be very, very, very nice out today. And over in dew points, we're only in the low 60s, so it's not that humid, and it's only in the low 80s. Very wonderful day out today. It's a really amazing day to go outside. Alright, taking a look at the IR imagery for now, Category 1 Hurricane Idalia. It is off the western portions of Cuba right now. It's moving north at around 8 miles per hour. Central pressure is only 981 millibars. Its maximum winds is around 74 miles per hour. So it is officially a Category 1 hurricane now, and the projected track for today, it's going to probably get up to Category 2 strength around later today, probably around lunchtime. And then by around early tomorrow morning on Wednesday morning, it's going to get up to a Category 3 off the western coast of Florida, points west of around Tampa, Sarasota, and Spring Hill. And anywhere in this cone, it could make landfall, but the projected track right now is Hurricane Idalia is going to make landfall near around Gross City, moving points east towards around Lake City, Gainesville, Stark, Jacksonville, St. Mary's, Waycross, Brunswick. So that's mainly the area of concern. And what I have outlined around here, this is a potential for significant flash flooding. As you can tell in the red, that is a moderate risk for significant flash flooding. Obviously, Hurricane Idalia has a lot of rain in this storm, so it's going to be dumping a lot of rain. So I outlined that. So in the red, you're at a moderate risk for significant flash flooding, a significant threat to life and property, a 15% risk of significant flash flooding within 25 miles of a point. And then over in the brown, it's a 10 to 15% risk, and then over in the green, there's around 5% risk. But don't get so focused on in the middle of this cone. See where the middle of this cone is. Don't get focused on where this is going to be direct landfall. This is where it's going to be directly landfall. No, it could be anywhere in this cone. And we also could have to expect that maybe this hurricane should shift right a little bit towards Tampa, or could shift, left a little bit towards Pensacola. We don't know. There's still a lot of uncertainty on where the exact track and where the exact landfall will be. But I have to agree with the National Hurricane Center in regards of its track right now. And we also have to talk about, whenever this massive hurricane, this Category 3 hurricane makes landfall in Florida, there's going to be a supermoon. And this is going to elevate storm surge. The moon is going to get obviously really close to the Earth. And that is, whenever the moon gets really close to the Earth, it elevates tide waves, and it elevates, waves in the ocean. And that's going to make storm surge even worse. They're projecting around 8 to 12 feet of storm surge in the area of Tampa, and points west. That's what this red outline is. 8 to 14 feet of storm surge. That's going to be elevated because of this new moon, and all that. So, yeah, I'll be keeping you guys updated on this dangerous situation unfolding with Hurricane Idalia. Let's go and take a look at the models and see what they're saying and the projected track of this hurricane now. Alright, so take a look at the 10M wind speed. This is in miles per hour. Obviously, this is Hurricane Idalia right here off the western portions of the Florida coast. Let's go ahead and progress this through. And as we could tell, as Hurricane Idalia makes landfall closer to around Cedar Key and Apalachicola, obviously the winds start to pick up around 43 miles per hour over here, and then as we progress it through, obviously around 55, 37. So this is quite the powerful storm in terms of wind speed, but obviously the HAFS model is really picking up on this major hurricane really developing. I mean, that is one that's one impressive storm, I will say. And obviously, as we progress this through, it's going to go through the Carolinas, dumping a bunch of rain. But it's going to be very, very, very windy over in Florida and the western coast near around Cedar Key, Apalachicola, and anywhere point south as well, also near like Tampa and all there, near Bradenton, all down there. It's going to be windy. Anywhere across the west coast, it's going to be very, very, very windy because of this big-time Hurricane Idalia. Let's go and take a look at the MSLP. This is, the low pressure and how deep this low pressure is going to get in millibars. So as we're off the coast of Florida around Wednesday, around 7 in the morning, it's showing 934 millibars, which is absurd. I don't know if it'll get to that because that has to be record breaking. That cannot be right. But as we progress it through Wednesday around 1 p.m. as it moves inland towards the lower portions, southern portions of Georgia, obviously it gets up in millibars, loses its strength, so around 970 millibars over in the southern portions of Georgia. And as it moves into the portions of the southern Carolinas, around 981 millibars. So obviously it loses its strength as it progresses through inland around southern portions of Georgia and the more western portions of the southern Carolinas. But 933 millibars over just whenever it's making landfall. That is cray-cray. I don't think that's going to happen, but that will be insane if it does. All right, let's go and take a look at the composite reflectivity. Right now, it's around Tuesday, 1 p.m. Obviously, the showers and stuff is still pretty disorganized. There is a little bit of an eye, though, but this will not become more apparent until around Wednesday, around 1 a.m., and before it even makes landfall and all that. So around Wednesday, around 4 a.m., around 7 a.m., this is whenever it starts to make landfall. This is one ferocious storm, I will say. There you can start to see the eye a lot better, but you can start to see a little bit better around 4 a.m., around Wednesday on August 30th. Very vivid eyeball. And as we progress this through around 10 a.m. on Wednesday, whenever it's going to make around landfall, around Cedar Point or around Apalachicola, obviously the subject tract is going to be changing because we still don't really know where it's going to make landfall. But yeah, this can be one strong storm whenever it makes landfall. As you can tell, the eye wall is still very vivid, very dangerous situation with very strong winds, torrential downpours, hurricane force winds, and possibly some tornadoes on the southern edge of this where all these little embedded supercells are in the northwesterly flow over, not really northerly flow, but more in the southern portions of the outer bands of this hurricane over here, more of a tornado risk. We'll get to that in just a minute. But as we progress this through in the southern portions of Georgia, as you can tell, starts to really lose its features, and it just becomes a massive rain risk. And as we progress this through over in the southern portions of the southern Carolinas, really starts to lose its identity as a massive hurricane. It just becomes a huge thunderstorm. Take a look at the precipitable water, which is the amount of water in these thunderstorms, how much they could dump down on you. I remember us talking about this whenever we had that massive flood event going on July 28th, whenever Mayfield got flooded around a foot of rain. The National Weather Service office over in Paducah had to issue their first flash flood emergency. So, sorry about that trivial question. So, taking a look at the precipitable water, there's a lot of rainfall in this massive hurricane, around almost 4 inches of rain over in these massive thunderstorms complexes. Around 3.26 inches of rain over in these thunderstorms. There's a lot of rain over in these thunderstorms. And also in the pink, there's also still a lot of rain in that too. So this is going to be a major, huge rain time maker for the portions of the western coast of Florida, southern portions of Georgia, and the southern and eastern portions of the southern Carolinas. Massive rainmaker for around the eastern coast of the United States. Taking a look at the hurricane panel, I know we just looked at the precipitable water and the composite reflectivity. You can go ahead and look at those if you want to. But taking a look at the surface sea temperatures, it's going to get extremely hot. These waters are extremely hot. I know in most of my forecasts that we've gone over on this hurricane season, very, very, very high sea temperatures in the around 80 degrees over in the Gulf of Mexico. That is the average temperature over in the Gulf of Mexico. Extremely hot for these massive hurricanes to build on. I mean, it's unreal. But take a look at the wind speed. I mean, look how high these wind speeds are over with this Hurricane Idalia making landfall around Cedar Point and over near Apalachicola, around south of Apalachicola. very, very strong winds in excess of around 80 to around 90 knots. I mean, it is extreme winds over there. Obviously, a significant threat to life and property over in the western portions of Florida. This is a very dangerous situation. If you have not evacuated now, and if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, you need to evacuate now. This is your last chance before conditions start to get very bad and they start to deteriorate. Listen to your local officials and local evacuation warnings. This is a very dangerous situation. This storm is expected to upgrade and intensify to a Category 3. Listen to your local government agencies and know your evacuation zones and know when to get out. This is a life-threatening situation, significant damage and threat to life and property is expected. So if you can get out now while you can. I also want to point out the tornado risk for the southern supercells that will be in the outer bands of this massive hurricane. Scattered locations may experience tornadoes and waterspouts with a few possibly or strong in intensity. What? So obviously the National Hurricane Center or the National Weather Service over in the Tampa Bay area has outlined a couple areas. So right there is a potential for several tornadoes over in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Lakeland over in the Gainesville area. The potential for several tornadoes with these outer bands. I can't believe I'm talking about tornadoes, but yes, tornadoes are possible in hurricanes. And then over in the lighter yellow, the potential for a few tornadoes. But if you live over in the Tampa, St. Petersburg, Lakeland, and Gainesville area, the potential for several tornadoes exists with these southern bands of the outer bands with this massive hurricane. So obviously stay weather aware for potential tornadoes and waterspouts in your area. All right, take a look at the Storm Prediction Center's outlook for the day 2 probability for severe weather. They have issued a slight risk for portions of the western portions of Florida, the eastern portions of Georgia, and around the southern portions of the southern and western Carolinas. Obviously, a slight risk is in effect. So, be weather aware. And they have issued a 5% categorical outlook for tornadoes in these areas. So obviously be weather aware for tornadoes and the wind risk. There is a 5% wind risk. I would not be surprised to see this upgraded in future outlooks. But yeah, just make sure to stay weather aware in any of these areas that the SPC has issued. That about does it, ladies and gentlemen, for this weather forecast. Make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notification bell to stay in the loop for any weather information. I'll be doing daily coverage on this massive hurricane expected to make landfall in Florida. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, stay in the loop for that, and I will see you guys in the next weather forecast.